a little bit about Founder Institute, which is the world's largest global network of startup accelerators, investors, and advisors. FI portfolio startups are around the world, and you can see a couple that have emanated from our part of the world. Now, one of the interesting things that we wanted to share today is that peer support is one of the important types of benefits of being part of an accelerator, as found by one of the Startup Muster reports. You can see that many startups over the years have benefited from being in an accelerator or an incubator. It's gone from 25% to 39%. And the local team in Australia, New Zealand, Paul has a storied background in the world of product management, having worked for some very large companies, as well as being a startup founder. So he's been through the whole cycle, knows what it's like to work from the big end of town, but also what it takes to be a scrappy entrepreneur to ensure that you've got product that can ship and that services customers. I've been fortunate to have a tech background and to also, since the 90s, work in the startup world, having started my first .com business as an e-commerce platform back in the 90s. These days, I invest in technology companies across Australia, New Zealand, and Southeast Asia in software, deep technology, and connected devices. At the Founder Institute, we're supported by Addisons, who are an Australian commercial law firm. One of our long-standing partners has been Rebecca Dooley, who provides a lot of advice to founders who take part in our program. And Addisons have gone on to look after the commercial affairs of many startups in our region. As mentioned before, we've been supported by a bunch of esteemed mentors who have been there and done that. They're either folks who have started businesses, been on the inside of startups, or who have been investors. We're very grateful for their support. Now, some of you may be wondering, where does Founder Institute fit within the broader startup world? Well, we are what's called a pre-seed accelerator. You might go to a half-day event or an evening cocktail, a lunch and learn, or you might even go to a weekend type of event. And then on the other side of us, there are these full-time accelerators, which require folks to not work in any other business except their startup. And then there's capital. We sit as Founder Institute in the middle, where people are able to work either full-time or part-time to get this initial traction and to prepare for pre-seed funding. We've been recognised, and you can see here, as a premier idea stage accelerator, and these are some of the companies that have come through as recognised by the Invest New South Wales government. And then beyond Founder Institute, one of the really exciting things that those that you'll be seeing here tonight, some of the 7 that you'll see here tonight, will be joining advanced accelerators to get funding faster. At Founder Institute, we believe in the startup rule of 1. It's best to have one problem that you're solving for one type of customer. Instead of having 20 products to solve that problem, let's start with the pointiest product to solve that problem, which is supported by a killer feature and one revenue stream. Here's a snapshot from looking out for this one problem, the one customer, the product, the feature, and their revenue. Our founders have received constant feedback. They've probably got the wise words of Paul and our mentors ringing in their ears. Maybe it's that little conscience that's sitting on their right shoulder. Because we do think that to make progress quickly, we want to give as clear and direct feedback as possible. There have been office hours, and thank you to our mentors for opening their diaries for those office hours. The peer support is really, really important. We've got people who are experts in marketing, people who have got a background in finance and the marketing, as well as technology, can be brought to bear on the various businesses, the various startups that have been germinating through the program. And the feedback, there's been the dashboards, there's been multiple review sessions, and then some of the sprints. If you want to learn about what founder style you might be, There is a founder DNA test that you can do. It takes about half an hour, 45 minutes, and then after that you get this report. I wanted to share, we're running a couple of events in the lead up to August. If you're interested in learning about Founder Institute, the opportunity to meet Paul and I, ask us anything, because we're starting our next program in August and it will be running through to November 2026.
All right then. Well, thanks everyone. So hi, I'm Vivian, founder of Clarify Care. I want to make it easy for older Australians and their loved ones to self-manage their own supported home so that they can stay living at home for longer. Who's been through the aged care journey knows how confusing and draining it is, and I know that firsthand myself. And I'm not alone, because a national survey has found that 46% of older Australians found the process confusing and stressful. And with an aging population, both here and globally, and governments wanting us to stay at home for as long as possible, this problem is only going to get bigger. So today, most people hand control over to a fully managed provider who takes up to 35% of their budget. And those who do try to self-manage, they juggle a different system for every provider. There's no way of comparing quality and price, and with records that they don't even own. So really, there's no way of really being able to be on top of it all, or an easy way to track funding or private spending, or even switch if they're not satisfied between providers. So Clarify Care is going to change all that with one consolidated portal. I won't go into the details of the solution, but I'm happy to talk to anyone who would like to. And I'm at a pre-seed validation stage, so I'd love to talk with potential investors, users, and technical builders who want to help solve this problem.
Who has the problem? And maybe if you want to explain which individual, describe the individual who has the problem and who might have the secondary problem.
The primary problem was obviously the person who needs the care at home. So they suddenly found out that they need to have supported care at home, or, in a situation their health is no longer able to look after themselves. But the real user of this is probably going to be the family member who is going to be the primary carer for this person. So I guess they're the secondary user in that case. They're probably going to be the one that they'll be delegated that responsibility by the individual.
In your experience, does both the primary person and the secondary person have a shared view, a common view of the problem?
Primary person, in my experience, as I've gone through this myself, sometimes it takes some convincing that they even need that care. And so that is also part of the journey as well, is really helping them to understand what's involved, and how, how to act, how it is not a scary situation at all. It's actually something that will be beneficial to them. They have a similar view in terms of wanting the care, but the objective that the child or the adult child has in the family who's looking after that parent or that person is to really help maximize the care that they get the best out of the budget they have, and really help them to access, the resources they need. The view of the individual carer is often, really wanting to just understand and navigate and be able to control and manage the system or the process for them.
I think the problem is the problem in a nutshell, basically, it's extremely fragmented, or you give it all up to a single provider and there's no way to assess quality in the market.
The problem is it's very confusing as to how to know what to do if you want to self-manage. If you just want to hand it all over to your full service provider, you can do that, but a big chunk of your budget's gone. But if you want to be able to self-manage it and stay in control of it, and also add on services that maybe your providers do not have, so you want to actually self-fund as well as self-manage, it's quite confusing as well to be able to know how to do that and get access to, to all the tools that you need.
And is there sort of a quality problem in the market as well?
Yeah, that's right. The solution will also enable you to be able to review and rate, and also search for service providers. And you can also choose and easily switch between providers as well. So there's a lot of encouragement from the government to actually become more support at home, to stay at home longer. But people are often very worried and scared about doing that because they think it's going to be quite complex. So this is where I'd really like to be able to step in and be able to help with Clarify Care.
Do you have a target segment within the whole age group and so on?
The customer persona is probably going to be a bit more someone who wants to be in control, wants to be able to know what's happening, wants to be self-directed. So that's going to be sort of that type of persona. They're probably more likely going to be even self-funded retirees. So they're people who maybe are not getting 100% fully funded by the government. So they're used to the idea of wanting to be able to search for their own services and pay for additional services if they want it. There is a specific segment that's probably going to be more relevant.
What about multi-language? So where you've got older parents, maybe they're migrants, they don't really speak English or read or whatever it is.
We also have different languages being covered as well in the platform, so they can have different languages being provided. But also as well, if that's important to them, being able to search for carers that speak that language, or being able to search for services that cater for that particular cultural group. So so having that ability to search at a deeper level and be able to compare pricing, look at reviews, look at different types of services that people offer. That's definitely would be part of it as well.
Her total addressable market, which Vivian, I imagine, is substantial. I guess my question was, are you aiming also to secure people when they're in the consideration stage, when they've got a parent who's heading down this direction? And are you also aiming to move customers out of contracted arrangements into your service if they're dissatisfied? And I guess the second part of that question was, what contractual arrangements exist if someone signs with a provider? Do they have the ability to quit that environment?
You're absolutely right. The addressable market is large, 4.5 million people over the age of 65. About 1 million of those are in support at home now. But the vast majority of those people are in those fully funded, expensive providers. What this will be enable is I definitely want to be able to speak to them early in the journey, because that's part of the problem, not knowing that you actually have this option. Under the new Aged Care Act, you're actually encouraged to find that self-managed provider and do it yourself, because you will save a lot more money. Obviously, you're going to get more access to more services out of your budget, and that means you'll stay at home longer. So the government actually wants you to do this. So you're totally within your rights to change service providers. There's no exit fees, there's no penalties, and providers can't do that. So you can switch and change if you're not happy. And again, that's another part of the problem. Stickiness. People just get so worried and scared about losing services that they don't want to change, even if they're not happy with the quality of the service. This is something that I want to try and address. I want to try and make sure that, look, we're not only democratizing the information and the knowledge, but we're also making sure that people get what they're entitled to and what they deserve.
Hi everyone, my name is Tony, and today I just want to introduce Kraton AI. I want to help the modern software companies or any of the software engineering teams that are running complex interconnected systems to solve the problem of the slow and unreliable end-to-end testings across multiple services. So this problem appears whenever teams releases a new feature, changing an existing service or prepare for production. Test engineers and QA engineers and also the whole engineering teams often spend days or weeks understanding dependencies, preparing test data, building automation, and fixing tests that break as system changes. This delays releases, consumes expensive engineering time, and can still may leave the critical business flows untested. I've spoke with multiple test engineers and QA professionals who have described the similar challenges in their current roles. So right now, I'm looking for a business development partner who probably understanding some of the technical knowledge to lead the marketing and sales and go-to-market strategies.
It's good. The problem you're solving is a real problem. So it's definitely know that. I guess, how are you planning on, getting to each of your market segments? Because there are, the space is vast. So who are you focusing on to start with?
So probably our initial focus will be the companies that are using the microservice architectures, because our main product is focusing on the cross-service testings, right? So for our solution, we plan to have our ideal customer or the engineering companies running more than 10 or 20 microservices, and we can deliver these testing solution for them to do some initial testings and to see the feedback from that.
is there a particular space within that you're going to pick?
Ideally would be like we can start from the e-commerce company or the fintech company. That's kind of the easy thing to entrance to get into the market. Ideally, like for any of the companies running the microservice architectures, it would be our ideal customer.
Yeah, I just think you'll find that in every segment. I'll just say focus. Focus. But yeah, no.
As a non-technical person, I think I've got a vague idea of what the problem is. And so my suggestion in pitching is to start off with the non-technical sort of high-level description, which is, so if you were to give it to me in 30 seconds or less, sort of what is the actual problem you're trying to solve?
To help engineering teams and software engineering teams to verify their software products, I would say, because some of them may meet some of the difficulty or challenges when they doing some new features, and then there might be some issues might not be covered in their tests. So our perspective and our solution is to cover this service for you in some, we produce some products it can automatically generate some solution for you, and then you don't need to consume time to design some cases or to do some extra work.
I think I understood the problem. Look, my feedback would be saying that, people who use Microsoft, it's a little bit like saying that people who breathe air. So being very specific about, look, we want to go after Microsoft users, even in fintech. Is that fintech writing stuff for banks? People who are writing stuff for neobanks? People it's just so broad. Are you wanting to go to enterprise? Are you want to go to challenger businesses? I think being very specific about that and having and having some kind of description as to why they have this problem. Obviously, you're not talking much about the solution now, but being able to hone into why their problem is different to, say, the problem of a similar developer in a big bank or a big insurance company.
My name is Mark Panayotis Notaris. I'm the founder and CEO of Empathos, and I want to help high performers transform into high trust leaders. The problem is that workplace teams are operating with an invisible trust deficit. 71% of employees don't trust executive leadership, and 24% of people that leave a role leave because they didn't feel trusted. So we see that the consequences of damaged relationships, revenue, and retention are very real in the post-COVID era. And we also believe that trust is a leadership capability. The challenge is that leaders don't have a way to measure it, and most leaders are currently investing in the wrong areas, like team building exercises that don't reveal the hidden trust blind spots or deficits. So we're testing this problem at the moment by meeting with teams that have good intention and are trying to build trust within them. And I'm looking for leaders and organizations experiencing this problem and people who can introduce me to them.
So who would your sort of ideal customer be in terms of sort of corporate size, etc.?
The medium-sized businesses, team leaders within those. One of the unique selling points of what we're doing is that we don't want to be HR driven. We want to be driven by the leaders themselves who have a level of emotional intelligence and want to, with good intention, fix trust in their team. So we don't want to be imposed on by HR leaders. So I think we're looking at the small to medium-sized businesses to start with, at least.
The small to medium-sized business owners or managers don't have the trust of their employees, or vice versa?
You see, or we believe that there's a low trust problem in a lot of teams borne out by the data and the retention data, and the global workforce surveys and Gallup surveys, etc. Answering Joanne's question there, we didn't want to start with large organizations is because if it's a mandate coming down from HR, then it sort of has a lot of baggage for low trust, potentially toxic leaders. So our ideal climate is someone with a higher emotional intelligence who realizes they have a problem but want to fix it with good intention. So does it? Yeah, if they're in larger organizations, but it would have to come from the team leaders rather than HR for this model to work.
In your conversations with leaders, do the leaders perceive that there is a trust issue in their organizations?
Yes, I mean, we haven't met anyone who doesn't believe there's a trust deficit either in their organizations or their teams. But at the organizational level, there are organizations or businesses like Culture Amp working at that level and Great Place to Work. So where we see we fit in the market is more at the level of the team, at least until we build up data sets that we can then benchmark at an organizational level. But what we're finding is that people don't know why trust is low or where it's failing. And so they're operating blind. And so we're trying to open the curtain to which areas of their performance the trust is low in.
The question again is similar to the discussion we had earlier with Vivian around addressable market. I mean, there's lots of places you could start with this. Have you identified particular departments or teams where the trust level is lowest and where the churn is highest, and therefore where the brain drain is for the business that you could target?
I think what I'm finding early on, but it's probably a bias that I have from my background, is in the not-for-profit sector. It's particularly acute, where you have, you've got very strong personalities running teams on high passion, and they might be very high on logic, but they're lower on that sort of authenticity and empathy in terms of engaging with their teams. But I don't have enough data to say it's stronger there than in other areas, but that's just where my network is. So, but I might take that on notice and think about it.
In the context of, if you have a focused start and you can get some wins in an area where there's a real problem before expanding out, that can give you enough momentum early on to start to get some traction and build conversations.
I think this is really hard to navigate. The reason being, where you've got the most problems, you're going to get the most pushback, and you're going to get the most people trying to undermine you, whether directly from the teams you're working with or the teams that they have problems with. It's definitely acute in the charity sector or the non-for-profit sector. How do you plan to handle that politics? Because that's what you're trying to get away from, is the politics, but there's no way you're going to get away from it.
I think, there might be a slight challenge with our model where we want it to be demand driven by the team leaders. So there's got to be a certain level of emotional intelligence for them to want the tool, the platform that we're building. I think we've got to have standards around a minimum number of the team members that fill in the assessments to be able to look at the trust deficit with the team leader. So we wouldn't do it for, let's say we haven't got a strict number yet, but fewer than 4 people, it's going to be potentially risky from that point of view of a leader who might use it against their team. And I think we also have to have a level of transparency with the information, and the part of the platform is to share back what we find so that there's actions that the team leader can implement following a measurement of trust, so that even though they might feel slightly confronted by the data or the information that comes back, they can sort of pivot into action really quickly. So the leadership actions that we've developed more recently, I think would hopefully minimize some of the tension of just getting something which is confronting and makes you feel like you're not doing a great job.
The other part on that is if they take it on and they think that they can control it and it's not what they want to hear, the trust will actually be worse afterwards.
Thank you. I'm Sarah. I'm the founder of Impact Vault, and I want to help persons with disabilities, the families and carers who support them, demonstrate functional impact more effectively. So the problem is that important day-to-day challenges are rarely captured in a way that shows the patterns over time, making it really difficult to advocate for the right supports and informed decisions. I'm validating this through my own lived experience and early users, and I'm looking to connect with families, clinicians, and investors who understand this challenge.
Could you describe the pointy end of the people who have the problem?
Yeah, sure. So the pointy end is that information is distributed everywhere. So, you may have sent an email to the school about your child with disability that they can't attend school today because of X, Y, Z reasons. As a carer, you may not have been able to attend work because you've had to pick your child up, and all that information is scattered. And so Impact Vault is where you can put one source of truth, of information that you hold.
In terms of the problem, is the problem being faced by disabled people at large, or is it particular disabled people who face this problem more markedly?
The whole disability sector, but mainly the carers who are looking after those people in having all that evidence together. So because everything is about functional impact.
Disabled conditions, are there particular conditions that you are wanting to focus on, that you see big problems in?
Yeah, autism, ADHD, mobility, all aspects of disability.
So of the ones that you've mentioned, ADHD, autism, and then like which one is, say, the biggest one? Which is the most acute?
I would say they all are, but autism is one of the ones that is really under scrutiny now with the NDIS. I think that's a large aspect of it, but I think they're all deserving of having their own voice.
Thanks, Sarah. I guess the question is then, what are the potential uses for the data that you're going to sort of assimilate or generate, or this picture that you're generating of the needs of the individuals?
You enter in the information and then it provides you trends. So example would be you have problems getting your child to school because they mask all day, and that's a functional impact for them. Therefore, if you enter that data in, then it would display insights and trends of when those sticking points are, so you can advocate to say, you know, my child didn't attend school 10 times this month, and I can prove that to you and I can demonstrate that, and that's a sticking point.
So essentially you're providing an evidence base when you are requesting or being asked to provide evidence for funding of services.
Correct.
Or as other things, or just advocacy.
Yeah, and also for support services, so clinicians like pediatricians to help better support the person with this information as well.